What's up, guys? I was in the mood for Gladiator Beast in the last week. I decided to take a Gladiator Beast deck because I had some ideas that I can use to pretty much make it spicy. I'm not sure if it's a spicy list or it's actually a good idea to go with this particular lineup for Gladiator Beast. As you guys seen in the thumbnails, it's a Signal Glad deck profile. It utilizes a hero signal to basically utilize the tempo strategy. So what this card, what it says is when a monster you control is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, that's another one. Special summon one level 4 or lower elemental hero monster from your hand or deck. So this is really a cool card that I wanted to try in Gladiator Beast because it allows you to pretty much recover your board so you can go into instant Geysaris the next turn if one of your Gladiator Beasts gets destroyed by battle. So this is a really cool card, and I think it's a kind of a necessary card in this particular build because what you can do theoretically is combine the hero signal with the test tape. I only played one test tape. I didn't want to try too many test tape because the idea behind test tape is that if it gets destroyed by battle, then you can proc its ability and then flip the hero signal. And then by doing these two card combos, you are able to circumvent the whole idea of being able to waste a normal summon. So this basically, if you do a T set and like this, and then they attack the test tape will be chain link 1, and then chain link 2, you're going to flip the hero signal. With these two combos here, you're gonna be able to special summon the Prisma from your deck from your deck or hand if you drew the Prisma, and then you're gonna be able to have a Prisma on board as chain link 2 from the hero signal, and then you're gonna special summon test tape, whatever GB that you want. Most likely you're gonna bring out Haplamis. The reason why you would most likely go to the Haplamis is because it has a 2100 defense. But otherwise, you can just go into Laquari. It just depends on the situation. So from there, on your following turn, you're going to use the effect of Prisma to reveal a Geysaris, and then you're going to send a Bestiary from your deck to the graveyard. So you guys can kind of get the idea. Without wasting your normal summon, you're able to contact fusion for a Geysaris, and then this makes it so that you bait out all the trap cards in Edison format. And since there's no hand traps that stop effect monsters, then you're able to at least proc some sort of trap card on the field, destroy recruiters on the board, etc. And if he gets dealt with by, let's say, a bottomless trap hole, let's say he gets bottomless, you still haven't used any of your normal summon. And so the idea is to be able to normal summon something like a Requari or anybody, and then you're basically able to pave the way for the Gladiator Beast to attack directly. That's kind of the idea that I try to use in this particular deck build. However, there's only 4 rounds in my locals, and then 4 rounds is never enough, or it's never sufficient enough to test whether a card is good in a particular archetype. And the reason why I say this is because you might not draw hero signal with your deck. Since I only played one test ape, every time I drew the test ape, I never had the hero signal, and every time I had the hero signal, I never drew the test ape. So knowing that the 4-round tournament doesn't allow me to really know if a card is good or not, and especially in games 2 and 3 against the same decks, I often would side this engine out for a smoke screen strategy. So anyway, so that's the engine. Pretty much the other cards are pretty much staple. So this is technically Prismaglads, except it plays the signal. So I'm just gonna call this Signal Glads. So you're gonna need the important GBs. Some people play 3, 2 Requires. I play 3, just because I can crash into Stratos. He's the biggest. He's the biggest GB, especially when he comes out of the deck as a 2100 attack monster. I play the 2 cast. A cast is really important in GBs, but you only need 2. You don't need 3 because one can recycle the other. I think this is the most important GB. Correct me if I'm wrong. However, because Geysaris needs Bestiary in your deck to go into him, some people will regard Bestiary as the most important one. But Bestiary's only real strength is to be able to contact fusion with him. You're never really special summoning this guy unless in games 2 and 3 people side decree against you. You can just pop the decree. But other than that, it's just fusion material in my opinion. The second most important GB, in my opinion, is actually Rediari. Because of Edison format being more and more solid every year, a lot of people are realizing that graveyard effects are really good. So being able to pretty much shut off graveyard access with the Rediari is important. You only need one because you don't want to open up with multiple copies of Rediari. I know some people will play two. An older years of Edison, people are playing two Rediari. I just don't see that happening. I don't want to open up with this guy. I want to tag into this guy. So that's proper deck building. Darius going to one. I only have play one Darius. I took this idea off of a guy named Brandon. You guys may know him as the guy who was featured on my channel. He played test tape GBs with creature swap and all that stuff. And I found it pretty peculiar that he only decided to play one Darius. And so I decided to go with his choice of only playing one Darius. Mainly because I want to tag into him to use his effect. I never really want to open with him because the 1700 stat line isn't as impressive as Aquari's because you can at least crash into a Stratos with this. With Darius, he's kind of like he's strong in the sense that he can crash with Bora the Spear. But after that, it's not really that useful at 2. So another reason why I only play one is because I play other monsters that aren't GBs in my deck. I'm not counting the Prisma or the test tape. There's other GBs that I'll get to. The other one I play is one Murmillo. You don't want to open up with 2. You don't want to play 2 or 3. You just need to access them. And then the one Hoplamis. Hoplamis is a high defense monster. Hardly ever go into him in defense mode. It's a very rare situation to go into him from the deck. Most likely what you're going to be using him for is to set him against like Hero Beat, and if they attack him, he can tag out and destroy Alias on the battle phase with the Murmillo. Okay, so the non-GB monster I play is Thunder King Ryo. So I have been playing a lot of Tengu, and I often wonder why people aren't playing Thunder King Ryo in Edison format. It stops synchro summoning, and since synchro summoning does not start a chain, you can just pretty much negate it. In games 2 and 3, people are going to be siding Cyber Dragon against you, and Thunder King Ryo is really solid against Cyber Dragon as well. A lot of time people will try to overcommit into a synchro play. Since synchros, for the most part, require 2 cards to make a synchro monster, and I mean 2 cards in net value, because they commit 2 cards and they lose their 2 cards if I were to Thunder King Ryo them without them getting any sort of advantage, then Thunder King Ryo is kind of good. Against Hero Beat, it also does another thing where it stops them from activating Emergency Call. It stops them from activating reinforcements to the army. So in Gladiator Beast in particular, Thunder King Ryo is really good because let's say you're playing against the Frog Monarch matchup, the Hero Frog matchup. You shut off your emergency call, the Rhoda and the Stratos, and then if they try to go Caius Treeborn Caius, then you have the Chariot to stop the Caius from resolving. In Edison format, there's really very few cards that people play to negate Caius. So because there's so few cards to negate Caius' effect, it always resolves. And so this deck can get away with main decking Thunder King Ryo to protect Thunder King Ryos from Caius because you have Chariot Caius. You can Chariot the Caius. So that's my monster lineup. I consider the Hero Signal to be monsters because it gets you a monster. Although it is a conditional monster that you have to have a 1 monster be destroyed in order to resolve this. Kind of took the idea of a Hero Lives. A lot of Gladiator Beast decks in the future of past Edison format used Hero Live to pay half their life point to bring out a Prisma. But this is a card that you can just use for free without paying so much life points to pay for Hero Lives. Hero Lives also makes it so you have to have no monsters on the field to resolve the Hero Lives. Whereas this one, you actually want to have a monster be destroyed. So yeah, that's the Hero Signal Glads. The spell card lineup, I'll go to it really quick. These are technically monsters. They are basically the Bestiari fetchers out of your deck. If you already have Bestiari or you just don't need Bestiari because of the situation, then this card at least allows you to see a Laquari out of your deck so that you can attack into monsters pretty safely. Sometimes I get Hoplamis, but it just depends. Most of the time, you're going to be using this to get Bestiari. Spell cards, I wanted to be a D-Gen competitive player who plays Heavy Storm in their heavy back row deck, and so I decided to play Heavy Storm in the main deck. It worked out okay. Sometimes I felt like Heavy Storm wasn't needed because sometimes I'll have 2 back row. It was always stuck in my hand until my back rows were all used up, and then I'll activate Heavy Storm. That's kind of the idea why people made deck Heavy Storm in a high back row deck. So yeah, and then I play the 1 MST because that one in the Edison format. And of course, you're going to need the 3 Book of Moons in this deck. Book of Moons is just so good in this format. Or not in this format, but in this deck. Sorry, let me take that back. Yeah, Book of Moons is really good because you can set Bestiari if you go into Bestiari from the deck. And then if they activate Bottomless Trap Hole, you can just chain the book, set it, and then if you have another GB, you can contact Fusion for Gyzaris. It also acts as a way to allow you to activate your effects under skill drain. It's also a really good defensive card. There's just so many utilities with book in particular for Gladiator Beast. So good stuff. Trap lineup. I think I played. Let me see, 5, 10, 14. I play 17 traps, including the hero signal. 1 Mirror Force. You need this to defend against big monsters that attack into your GBs. It's just a really powerful trap card. I normally don't like Torrential Tribute, but in 2024, I've actually grown to love Torrential Tribute, especially in Gladiator Beast. Reason being is that if you have a GB on the field and you Torrential, it looks like a 2-for-1 sometimes. But what Torrential really does is that it says destroy all your opponent's monsters so that your GBs can attack directly the following turn. And then if you have a GB in the graveyard, you can just get it off of a cast, so you're getting a +1. So basically, Torrential becomes a +2 or +1 depending on the situation. Even if you Torrential your own monster, because you have a cast in your deck, it's actually a +1 if you can clear 2 or more monsters on your opponent's side. So yeah, I really like Torrential in this particular deck, and I will continue to main deck Torrential for Gladiator Beast. You're gonna need Starlight Road just because of Heavy Storm. Mainly, I mean Icarus Attack is another one too. Blackwing is this deck's worst matchup, as well as Hero Beat. I still don't know why people think that those two matchups are beatable. Maybe it's favored in those matchups, but it's not 100% that you're gonna win against this deck. I would say probably you're 40-60 favored towards the other decks. So just to keep that in mind. So you're gonna need some cards that you need to resolve to beat those matchups. And against Blackwings, you need Starlight Road. Against Hero Beat, you're gonna need 1-for-1 traps, essentially just to deal with the alias. I played the 2 Bottomless. Bottomless is great. There's no need to explain Bottomless. I play the Call of Haunted. A lot of people don't know this, but if you revive a Gyzaris that was properly Contact Fusion, you can actually proc his ability to blow up 2 cards. So I really like Call of Haunted in this format. And I really like Call of Haunted in Gladiator Beast because it's interruptive, but it also allows you to have another GB so you can go into Bestiary. That's another utility of it's both a defensive card and a combo card. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. To pair the Starlight Road with the Solemn Judgment for anti-Heavy Storm, you have the Solemn Judgment. Solemn Judgment is also really good because you can use it on like a 2-for-1 situation where people commit cards to make a board. So the thing about GBs is that if you don't open up with Chariot, I don't know if you can win a game consistently. So some people play the Sam Knight and Test Tiger. I forgot to mention I don't play Test Tiger in this deck. So because I don't play Test Tiger in this deck because of rooms, because of the room issue, I have to opt to play the 3 Chariot because I have to at least open up with it. I don't play Sam Knight because I don't think Sam Knight's really useful in a Tigerless build. So because I'm not playing Tiger, you have to play the 3 Chariots. And this deck, this card makes GBs, I would say. I mean, there are formats where Chariot wasn't legal or wasn't out yet, and GBs was like the tier 0 deck. But that's because the format wasn't as the format was a lot easier to where GBs was like dominant. But in formats where there are Chariot, the formats are just harder for GB to win with. So you just need a Chariot, essentially. 3 Deep Prisons. There's really nothing to say about. You have to max out on Deep Prisons just because a lot of times your GBs are going to be smaller. It deals with Stardust, and sometimes if you're dealing with a Thought Ruler, these two together deals with Thought Ruler. So if you Deep Prison and they go Thought Ruler negate, you just Chariot it and go on with your life. So that's why you have to main deck 3 Deep Prisons. It's much like Gadgets. And then yeah, so I'm back on Team Dust Shoot, basically because I think main decking Dust Shoot in Edison format feels right because there's no stun decks in the format. There's not a lot of decks that set 4 back row and then pass, or summon a monster and set 4 back row. So Dust Shoot will always almost be alive in Edison format. So yeah, that's my trap lineup. And so yeah, you just need those cards. It's 40 exact. So the most important part of my deck in particular is the side deck because I go for a smokescreen strategy. The smokescreen strategy, because GBs has lots of variations to the deck, I play the 3 DeFi. So because I play the DeFis and I smokescreen into this, I'll often side out the Hero Signal, the Test Tape, the Prismas, you name it. All the cards that rely on the graveyard. Another card I side out is called Haunted, because DeFi, if any of my monsters go to the graveyard, I can't revive it. and so I can't proc their abilities that activate in the graveyard, such as Hero Signal. So this card is actually really good against most of the format. Value Turbo, Black Wings, even Hero Beat. If they Gemini Spark, they have to banish their alias, so the Hero Blast becomes not live. If you play against recruiter decks such as Fairies or any dark deck that uses Mrs. Tomato, you can just attack and send it to banished. Zombies is another one. Zombies is making a recurrence. Value, you name it. Even Frogs, if they go Treeborn and they sacrifice for Kais, Treeborn has to get banished, and at least this card is dealing with the Treeborn Frog. So so I smokescreen into DeFi Glads. Other cards I side other card I side is Shrink. So I side the Shrink because over Smashing Ground. I don't play Smashing Ground in this deck because Shrink is a card that's good going second and going first. If I open up a Shrink and I set the Shrink, it's interruptive, so where I can proc the tag out ability of my GBs, assuming my monster can actually run over the monster after a Shrink. And then so on top of that, if I'm dealing with the Kaius that are already resolved, and most likely it will resolve because of MST and Heavy Storm, procking or destroying my Chariot. If my Chariot gets destroyed and I don't have any more Chariot and they resolve a Kaius, you're going to need a card to deal with the Kaius on the clapback. So if you have a GB and this, that's over 1200 attack, and you shrink the monster and you attack the Kaius, you can at least tag out. So that's why I like Shrink over Smashing Ground. Shrink also gets over Stardust. Stardust is this deck's kind of bane a little bit. So being able to shrink the Stardust to 1250 makes it really easy for your guys to run it over. So yeah, I just really like Shrink in GBs. So a card that a lot of people don't play in GBs, especially in Edison format in general, is Anti-Spell Fragrance. This is a really old card. It came out of like Dark Duel Stories. So it's actually legal in Edison. It's Act 3. And I don't know why people don't play it, especially in Glads, because if people set their spell card with GBs and they set their spell cards in so they can hope to activate their spell card, this card makes it so that Geyzars can just pop those back rows that are spell cards, and then they can never resolve those spell cards. That's the idea behind Anti-Spell Fragrance. It actually won me a couple games in the tournament because I just flipped this card, and they can't Heavy Storm me. And a lot of times against back row heavy decks, Heavy Storm needs to resolve in order for them to do their power play. Otherwise, they're going to walk into a Chariot or a back row a monster removal. And so I really like Anti-Spell Fragrance as kind of like a pseudo Starlight Road in a way. But it also does something that Starlight Road doesn't do, is that it stops power spells. So if you're playing against like zombies, for example, power spell would be Book of Life. If you're playing against frogs, a power spell will be Enemy Controller or Soul Exchange. And so knowing that, I really like Anti-Spell. If they draw into Book of Moon, they have to like quick play use it right away. Otherwise, they have to set it, and they can't activate it on my following turn. I can Contact Fusion for Geyzars and just destroy this card. So really good card in GBs. I really recommend you play this card, either the main deck or the side deck for GBs. Really slept on for sure. And of course, I just play the 2 Dust Tornadoes. This can be paired together too. If they set a spell card, you can just Dust Tornado it. That's kind of the idea. 2 Cyber Dragon because it's a staple side deck card in Edison. And then the 2 Massacre Strict. So I like Massacre Strict now more than ever because over Pulling the Rug. Because Pulling the Rug is a card that could be destroyed by Unifrog. Whereas Massacre Strict, in order for them to make the Unifrog, they had to tribute with Substitute. So flipping this card against the Frog deck is actually keys now. I think this is going to be main deck more often. But this card still gets susceptible to Raigeki Break. But the thing about Raigeki Break is that they have to wait a turn for them to activate, flip it and destroy the Massacre Strict. So yeah, so I prefer this card now against Frogs. Maybe my mind will change when I realize that it's not as good as Pulling the Rug. But for now, I'm going to go with the Massacre Strict. And this pairs really well with this deck because they don't tribute summon. So there's no Kaius in this deck, so there's no need to care about siding Massacre Strict. All right, extra deck. So really quick, it's not that important. 2 Heraclinos, 1 Stardust for the Starlight Road, 3 Geyzars, and 3 Chimera Tech. In the tournament, actually, I couldn't find my 2 Chimera Techs, so I only played with 1. And then I actually had the opportunity to Contact Fusion again, but I still won that game anyways. But definitely max out on the Chimera Tech if you guys can. And if you don't max out on Chimera Tech, then your Cyber Dragons will be dead. Cyber Dragon is at 2 in this format. So you're probably wondering why side the 3rd one, or why have the 3rd one in your extra deck. Well, I play Call of Haunted as well. So because I have Call of Haunted, I can revive the Cyber Dragon, and then I can Contact Fusion. So yeah, that's my deck profile. So I am trying to innovate Gladiator Beast. I think Gladiator Beast is a really good contender for the 2024 meta, where frogs are pretty much everywhere. Against Vayu Turbo, you can banish the Vayu from the graveyard using Rediari. And so yeah, if you guys are interested in the gameplay video, I'll have a sort of a new way of showing gameplay video. I'm doing basically a POV setup where I show my hand and then I basically you can see what I do and my decision processes each round too. So that's gonna be my the video for you guys. So yeah, check out the video if you guys want to see the gameplay video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.